When a woman misses connection, she rarely announces it directly because longing is often softer than words. Instead, she lets it show through presence, through timing, through small gestures that seem casual but are carefully placed. Her attention becomes a bridge she hopes you will cross, even if you don't realize it's there. What looks like coincidence is often intention wrapped in vulnerability. She might reach out without a clear reason, asking something simple that doesn't require an answer, only engagement. The question itself matters less than the response, because what she is really checking is whether the line between you is still alive. Silence, for her, is louder than rejection, and a reply can feel like warmth after a long emotional winter. Attention becomes proof that the connection still exists. Sometimes she shows up where you are, physically or emotionally, not to demand closeness but to make it possible. She mirrors your energy, hoping you'll notice the reflection and recognize it as an invitation. It's not manipulation, it's hope wearing subtle clothing. She wants to be chosen without having to ask. Her words may carry extra care, extra thought, even when the topic is ordinary. There's a softness in how she phrases things, a patience in how she waits, because she's giving space for you to step in. When connection is missing, even small kindnesses can feel like lifelines. She uses them carefully, almost reverently. There are moments when she pulls back slightly, not to disappear, but to see if you'll notice the distance. Absence becomes a question rather than a punishment. If you reach out, it tells her she matters without her having to say it. If you don't, it confirms a fear she was hoping wasn't true. She may laugh a little louder, share a little more, or open a door to a personal story. These are not accidents, they are offerings. She's saying, without saying, that there is more beneath the surface if you're willing to look. Attention, in this sense, is a language of trust. When she misses connection, time feels different to her. Minutes stretch when she waits, and moments collapse when she's heard. Your attention can recalibrate her emotional clock, grounding her again. That's why even brief acknowledgement can feel deeply meaningful. Her effort is often balanced on a fine line between courage and fear. She doesn't want to overwhelm, but she doesn't want to disappear either. Attention becomes the safest way to reach without risking too much. It's a quiet form of bravery. She notices the details you might overlook, remembering small things you've said or done. This isn't coincidence, it's care. When connection is missing, memory becomes a way to keep it alive. She holds on to pieces of you while waiting for you to hold her back. In the end, her attention is not a demand but an offering. It's her way of saying that connection matters, that you matter. Whether it grows or fades depends not on how loudly she asks, but on how gently you respond. A woman who misses connection often hides vulnerability inside normalcy. She keeps her tone light, her messages simple, her presence easy to accept. But beneath that surface is a quiet hope that someone will notice the emotional weight she's carrying. Vulnerability doesn't always cry. Sometimes it just waits. She may check in on you under the excuse of concern, curiosity, or habit. What she's really checking is whether she still has a place in your emotional world. These moments are small, but they're loaded with meaning. Each interaction becomes a test she never wanted to take. There's a careful restraint in how much she reveals. She might want to say more, but she measures every word, afraid of tipping the balance. Missing connection makes her cautious, not cold. She's protecting herself while still reaching out. Her vulnerability often shows in what she doesn't say. The pauses, the unsent messages, the thoughts she edits before sharing. She hopes you'll read between the lines, even though she knows that's a risk. Still, she tries, because connection feels worth it. Sometimes she offers emotional availability without directly asking for it in return. She listens deeply, responds thoughtfully, and stays present. This is her way of saying she values depth. She's hoping you'll match that energy and meet her there. When she jokes, there might be a softness underneath the humor. Laughter becomes a shield and a signal at the same time. She's making the moment lighter, so the longing doesn't feel too heavy. Humor becomes her way of staying connected without exposing too much. She might share memories or thoughts that seem random but are emotionally significant to her. These are windows she opens carefully, just wide enough for you to peek inside. If you step closer, she'll open them more. If you don't, she'll quietly close them again. Her vulnerability is patient but not endless. Missing connection teaches her how to wait, but it also teaches her when to stop. Each unanswered reach leaves a small mark. Over time, those marks add up. She doesn't want grand gestures, she wants consistency. A steady presence means more than dramatic words. When connection is missing, reliability feels like safety. She's watching not for intensity, but for intention. In the end, her vulnerability is an act of faith. She believes that being seen is possible, even if it's not guaranteed. Her attention is her way of stepping forward first, hoping you'll recognize the courage it took. When a woman misses connection, what she longs for most is not pursuit, but reciprocity. She doesn't want to feel like she is pulling something toward her while standing still. Attention becomes her way of extending herself into the space between you, hoping that the space will shrink rather than stretch. Being met halfway is not about effort alone, but about intention that feels mutual. She notices quickly when energy flows in only one direction. Even if she continues to show warmth, there is an internal awareness that grows quietly. She begins to measure not words, but consistency. A connection that exists only when she initiates slowly teaches her that presence is conditional, and that realization changes how safe she feels. Meeting her halfway means acknowledging her existence without being prompted. It means remembering her without being reminded. These things may seem small, but to her they signal that she is held in mind, not just responded to. Attention given freely carries a different emotional weight than attention given on request. She is not asking to be the center of everything, only to feel included in the emotional equation. When she senses that she matters enough for you to reach out first sometimes, her guardedness softens. She relaxes into the connection rather than managing it. Mutuality allows her to stop calculating and start feeling. There is a deep fatigue that comes from always being the one who bridges the gap. Over time, missing connection while still trying to maintain it can feel like carrying something heavy alone. She may smile through it, but internally she wonders how long she can hold the weight without help. Being met halfway feels like relief. When reciprocity exists, she doesn't need reassurance spelled out. She feels it in the rhythm of communication, in the ease of shared presence, in the absence of doubt. The connection breathes naturally. She becomes more expressive, more playful, more open, because she no longer fears imbalance. If that reciprocity doesn't come, she may slowly adjust her expectations. This doesn't always look like confrontation. Often it looks like quiet acceptance followed by distance. She isn't withdrawing to punish, but to protect her sense of self from shrinking in the effort to be close. Being met halfway also means emotional availability, not just attention. She wants to feel that her thoughts land somewhere, that her feelings are received rather than deflected. When she shares something meaningful, she watches carefully how it's handled. That response tells her whether the connection is real or superficial. She believes that connection should feel like shared movement, not pursuit or resistance. Two people leaning toward each other, even imperfectly, creates safety. One person leaning while the other stands still creates strain. She is sensitive to that difference, even if she never names it aloud. When she feels met, her loyalty deepens naturally. She invests without resentment because the exchange feels fair. She doesn't keep score when she feels seen. Reciprocity frees her from hesitation and allows her to be fully present. Ultimately, when a woman seeks your attention like this, she is not asking for more than you are. She is asking whether you are willing to step into the space with her instead of watching from a distance. Being met halfway is the moment she realizes connection is shared, not imagined. When a woman misses connection, silence becomes a language she never wanted to learn but understands deeply. It isn't empty to her. It's heavy, filled with interpretation and unanswered questions. Every pause carries meaning. Every delay invites doubt. Silence is not neutral when connection matters. It is expressive in its own quiet way. She notices changes immediately, even the subtle ones. Shorter replies, slower responses, less curiosity. What others might dismiss as busyness feels personal to her because connection lives in attentiveness. When silence grows where warmth used to be, she feels the absence before she understands it. She may try to soften the silence rather than break it. Instead of confronting it directly, she adds gentle presence, hoping to remind you of what exists between you. A message, a check-in, a shared thought. These are not random, they are attempts to keep the space from becoming too wide. Silence can make her question herself, even when she has done nothing wrong. She replays conversations, rereads messages, searches for moments where she may have overreached. Missing connection turns reflection into overthinking, especially when there is no clarity to ground her. There is a difference to her between needing space and creating distance. When silence is explained, it feels manageable. When it appears without context, it feels like disappearance. She doesn't need constant communication, but she needs to know where she stands. If silence continues, she may begin to mirror it, not out of spite, but out of emotional exhaustion. Constantly reaching into quiet teaches her that effort is invisible. Matching the silence becomes a way to stop hurting herself. It's less about pulling away and more about conserving energy. She grieves connection quietly when it fades into silence. There is no dramatic ending, no clear goodbye, just the slow realization that something meaningful is no longer being tended. This kind of loss is confusing because nothing officially ends, yet everything changes. When silence replaces engagement, she may choose clarity over comfort. That clarity might look like distance, boundaries, or emotional detachment. She learns that unanswered presence can hurt more than honest absence. Choosing herself becomes necessary. If silence is broken with intention, she feels it immediately. A thoughtful return, an honest explanation, a genuine effort can restore what felt lost. She is not unforgiving, she is sensitive. Connection can be repaired when silence is acknowledged rather than ignored. In the end, when a woman reacts to silence, she is not demanding noise. She is asking for awareness. She wants to know that the space between you is intentional, not neglectful. When silence is handled with care, connection can survive it. When it isn't, silence becomes the answer she never wanted but learns to accept.